There is a bean that produces more protein per square foot than raising cattle. It needs no land, no fertilizer, and no sunlight. It grows to harvest in 5 days on your windowsill. NASA studied it for space stations. The United Nations called it the most promising food crop of the 20th century, and then it nearly vanished from Western awareness. A single box in a window can produce fresh protein all year long, and by the end of this video, you will know exactly how. Welcome back to Botanical Vault. Before we get into the practical guide, tell me something. Have you seen this plant growing wild near where you live? Leave it in the comments. Sometimes the most valuable thing is not hidden in a laboratory. It is beside a road, climbing a fence, or in someone's garden who never uploaded it to the internet. Now try a simple experiment. Go into any supermarket this week. Spend 1 minute in the meat section. Watch the people standing at the counter. You will see the same pattern again and again. They pick up packages of ground beef, look at the price, and put them back down. In many cities across the United States, you see the same number over and over again, dollars per pound. And it is not just the price, it is the expression. It is the mental math in the aisle, because protein has become expensive. But on a windowsill 3 blocks from that same supermarket, someone is producing protein with no land, no animals, no refrigeration, and no supply chain. Just a shallow tray and tap water. The plant responsible has a detail that sounds almost invented. Its pods have 4 longitudinal wings. That is why botanists named it Psophocarpus tetragonolobus, the winged bean. In the Philippines, many farmers know it by local names that change from province to province. In Indonesia and across Asia, it appears in markets under other common names. In Papua New Guinea, where it has been cultivated for more than 2,000 years, it has dozens of names, and each one represents generations of cooking soil, climate, and survival. The West nearly forgot it, but science did not forget it completely. In 1975, the National Academy of Sciences brought together a panel of agricultural scientists in Washington, D.C. Their task was straightforward: to identify underused tropical plants with exceptional potential. They reviewed hundreds of candidates and selected the winged bean for special attention. The report that came out of that work, published in 1981, used unusually vivid language for a scientific document. They called it a supermarket on a stalk. That phrase stayed for a reason, because nearly every part of this plant is edible. The young pods taste similar to green beans. The mature seeds contain protein levels that rival soybeans. The leaves provide nutrition comparable to spinach. The flowers can also be eaten. And what almost nobody in the West sees, the underground tubers that hidden part beneath the soil can reach 20% protein. To put that in perspective, potatoes are usually around 5%. That means that for the same harvest weight, the tuber of the winged bean can deliver 4 times more protein than a common tuber. But the real story is in the seed. Laboratory analyses published in food science journals have measured the protein content of the winged bean between 29% and 42%, depending on the variety. Beef by dry weight is usually around 26%. The fact that a plant seed can compete with animal muscle in protein density should have been a revolution. And yet it was not. Why? Because there is another feature that makes it even more disruptive to the industrial system. It is a legume that fixes nitrogen. In its roots, it forms nodules with bacteria that convert nitrogen from the air into food for the plant. In practical terms, the winged bean fertilizes itself. Less dependence on synthetic fertilizers, less dependence on the industrial chain, fewer recurring purchases, and a crop that demands fewer external inputs. It is not the kind of crop anyone is eager to sell to you. In the 1980s, agricultural research stations in tropical regions launched serious programs. Research centers in Asia developed improved varieties. Stations in Nigeria and India tested cultivation methods. Agricultural organizations promoted the winged bean as a candidate for strengthening protein intake in diets where meat is expensive or unstable. For a moment, it seemed as if the winged bean was going to transform global protein production. Then interest faded. Funding changed. Programs were shut down. Research moved on to other projects, and the winged bean returned to its traditional zones, where it had never disappeared. In Southeast Asia, it continued to be cultivated as always in yards, gardens, and local markets. But the promised revolution never took hold in the fields of Europe or North America. And the reason has more to do with economics than biology. In tropical climates, the winged bean can behave like a perennial. You plant it once, and it comes back year after year. It produces part of its own fertility. It requires fewer inputs after establishment. Every one of those qualities makes it valuable for food security, and at the same time, makes it unattractive to an agricultural system built on constant sales of seeds, fertilizers, and chemicals. But here comes the part almost nobody explained to you. You do not need a tropical farm to access the best part of this bean. You do not need soil. You do not need a field. And in fact, for the most efficient version at home, you do not even need direct sunlight. You only need to understand germination. Because the secret is not only in the plant, it is in what happens when a seed wakes up. When a seed germinates, its chemistry changes. Enzymes that were dormant become active. Starches turn into simple sugars. Proteins become more digestible. Vitamins are synthesized from precursors. The seed stops being a storage unit and becomes a living system designed to grow. Research published in food chemistry journals has documented these transformations in measurable terms. For example, trypsin inhibitors, compounds that interfere with protein digestion and exist as a natural defense in seeds, can decrease sharply during germination, sometimes between 60% and 80%, depending on the protocol and timing. This defense is useful when the seed is dormant and trying to survive. But once it germinates, the priority is growth, and that chemical armor is switched off. Vitamin C tells an even more surprising story. Dry seeds contain little vitamin C, but after several days of sprouting, the content can rise dramatically. In winged bean sprouts, increases of up to 600% have been reported around the 5th day under specific conditions. The seed manufactures that vitamin as it prepares for active life, and you harvest that nutritional rise at exactly the right moment. Protein digestibility also improves from around 65% in raw seeds to more than 85% in sprouts. That means you are not just eating protein on paper, your body absorbs more of what is there. In practice, sprouting does part of the digestive work for you. And here is the critical window, the point of maximum density between day 4 and day 5. At that point, the cotyledons, the first 2 structures that emerge from the seed, have already expanded. They still concentrate the original nutrition of the grain, but now, with the enzymatic improvements created by germination, not as much energy has yet been diverted into long stems and large roots. Day 4 to 5 is usually the harvest point, with the best texture and the best value per volume. Now yes, here is the 5-minute method that works in any kitchen. First, get seeds. In Asian stores in many cities, the winged bean is sold dry sometimes, under names like Goa bean or angled bean. There are also online sellers and seed exchange networks offer untreated seeds specifically for sprouting. 1 kilogram usually costs very little compared with animal protein and yields dozens of harvests. You are not buying food for one day, you are buying cycles. Second, do a quick inspection. Look at the seeds and remove any that are cracked, very dark, visibly moldy or damaged. Damaged seeds are the entry point for fungi. This step takes 30 seconds and can save you a week of failed batches. Third, soak them. Place the seeds in a glass jar or a bowl. Cover them with room temperature water. Use roughly 3 times as much water as seed volume because they will absorb water and expand. If some seeds stay only half hydrated, they germinate unevenly, which increases the risk of odors and mold. Let them soak for 12 to 24 hours. That range matters. Less time can lead to poor germination. More time can invite bacterial growth. Fourth, drain completely. Rinse with fresh water. Drain again. The golden rule is simple: never leave standing water. Fifth, use a container with drainage. It can be a commercial sprouting tray, a window box with holes, a colander lined with cloth, or a perforated tray. The container matters less than the drainage. Standing water is the perfect environment for mold. Sixth, position it correctly. Put the container away from direct sunlight. Sprouts develop better in indirect light or even in shade. Direct sun heats the seed mass, speeds up bacterial growth, and can create a bitter taste. A countertop away from the window works well. A cabinet with the door partly open also works. Seventh, rinse twice a day, morning and night. Use room temperature water. Shake gently so all the seeds get wet. Drain thoroughly. Each rinse removes metabolic waste and adds oxygen. Skipping rinses is the fastest way to end up with a batch that smells strange. Eighth, temperature. Germination changes dramatically with climate. Between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius is usually ideal. Below that, growth slows down. Above that, contamination increases. Most homes fall within that range at some point during the day. If your kitchen gets very hot in summer, find a cooler spot. If everything is cold in winter, avoid icy windows and find a mild corner. Now, pay attention to the process markers because they give you control. Day 2, you will see root tips emerging from the seed. Day 3, the roots lengthen and the cotyledons begin to separate. Day 4, the cotyledons expand and take on a pale greenish or yellowish color. Day 5, maximum expansion before the stem begins to elongate and divert energy. Harvest by cutting the sprouts at the base or lifting the entire mat if you germinated them in a tray. Rinse the harvest and drain it well. Store it in the refrigerator in a container with a paper towel to absorb excess moisture. When properly stored, they stay fresh for 5 to 7 days, but the best flavor and texture are usually within 48 hours. And here comes the trick that turns this into continuous production. Start the next batch on the same day you harvest. With 2 containers in rotation, you have fresh protein constantly 5 minutes a day, without seasons, without climate dependence, and without waiting for the price of meat to fall. Now, let us do the math, because this is where opinion becomes a system. A standard 12-inch window box can produce in a 5-day cycle a volume of sprouts that, converted to dry matter, equivalent may reach around 100 grams under reasonable conditions. If we assume an approximate protein content of 35%, that is 35 grams of protein per cycle. 6 cycles per month, more than 200 grams. In a year, more than 2 kilograms of protein coming from one window. Compare that with meat. Getting 2 kilograms of protein from beef means raising an animal for 18 to 24 months. That animal consumes tons of feed, much of it grain that humans could eat. It requires water, land, veterinary care, transport, slaughter, infrastructure, refrigeration, and distribution. Your box requires tap water, a container, and minimal discipline. And the contrast is not only logistical, it is structural. Meat depends on systems that break easily. Fuel refrigeration, transport, feed prices, and availability. Home sprouting depends on something that rarely disappears, even in a crisis: water and time. If you have seeds, you have a protein bank. If you have a container, you have a factory. Not an industrial factory, a biological factory. This is food sovereignty. Not bunkers, not piles of ultra-processed food. Sovereignty means being able to produce essential nutrition within your own space through a simple and repeatable skill. And that is why the winged bean is such a powerful symbol of an uncomfortable truth. Real validated solutions do not become mainstream if they do not fit the profit structure of the supply chain. The winged bean waited while the West ignored it. It waited while money chased patentable products. It waited while huge markets were built for isolated nutrients in capsules. It waited while prices rose and families did calculations in the meat aisle. Seeds do not understand markets. They understand water temperature and time. Give them those three inputs, and they transform from dormant storage into living nutrition, from a forgotten crop into a kitchen staple, from an agricultural rarity into food security that you control. If this video helped you do one quick thing, subscribe to Botanical Vault, and if you start your first batch today, come back and comment on which day you harvested and how the flavor turned out, because knowledge becomes real when it moves from the screen into your kitchen. And now you know. What happens next depends on a box in your window and 5 minutes of your attention each day.